With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Speaking of things slipping, the ratings of Daredevil, obviously they went down a bunch with Daredevil Born Again. And I don't know, we all should have been all that surprised. I mean, we all talked about how wildly popular it was on Netflix, but we never really got a solid sense of the numbers there. And maybe not as many people watch it as we thought. Or other reasons. This is more gritty and adult. Maybe parents didn't let their kids watch. I mean, whatever. But the ratings weren't as good. I mean, Agatha all along had bigger ratings. They did. That's not being sarcastic. They did. Agatha all along had higher viewership numbers. So anyway, star of the series and star of the most underrated film of all time, Stardust, Charlie Cox, was recently at a convention. And when talking about one of the variations and versions of the Daredevil suit that he's going to be wearing in Daredevil Born Again Season 2, he accidentally referred to the season as Game Radar puts it, the final season. Daredevil star Charlie Cox calls Born Again Season 2 the final season, while teasing his favorite suit is still to come in the Marvel series. Now, this is what they wrote. During an appearance at GalaxyCon, Cox talked up an upcoming suit on the Disney Plus series, which he says is his new favorite suit for the Man Without Fear. While waxing lyrical over the new threads, the Daredevil actor also revealed that that it would do something quote-unquote unique and separate from the comics in what he described as the final season. All right. Now, before we get too into it, I want to throw out two asterisks to this. Number one, Vincent D'Onofrio is saying he still thinks there could be a season 3. And the other thing is, keep enough room in this that Charlie Cox may have misspoke. It happens. We're human. I accidentally misspeak when I do that. You accidentally misspeak, you at home, when you're talking to somebody, correct yourself, whatever. It could just be that Charlie Cox misspoke. Maybe he meant to say, instead of, maybe he wanted to say this most recent season. Maybe he accidentally said final season, whatever, right? He never later on stops and goes, and just a reminder, everybody, this is the last season. He doesn't say that. So I want to just make sure we have those asterisks out there. That said, him referring to season 2 as the final season may catch us by surprise because, Brad Winderbaum, is that how you pronounce his last name? The executive at Marvel who runs all the television and animation, recently said, hey, we're going to do Daredevils. Well, recently, a while ago, said, we're going to do Daredevils season 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to have a season every year. We're not going to have to wait. Remember, we did that big talk about it because that's great. We shouldn't have to wait 2 or 3 years in between seasons. But the reality is, this is not, a small thing to make a Daredevil series. And I'm sure, just like the fans and us, I'm sure Disney had certain expectations of how big the numbers would be on Daredevil Born Again. It clearly didn't hit those numbers. It's not that unthinkable that they could very seriously be looking at season 2 as the final season. Saying, you know what? We brought Daredevil home. We've got the character under the tent now. And we revisited him. Great. But it's not returning numbers that justify the energy and effort, particularly in this new era where Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are saying we're going to make less than we've made in the past few years. Is it really that inconceivable that season 2 of Daredevil Born Again would be its final one? And I would suggest it's not inconceivable. Again, I'm leaving room for the fact that Charlie Cox may have just misspoke. I'm simply saying if Kevin Feige came out tomorrow and definitively said, yes, Daredevil season 2 will be the final season, I'm not going to be surprised and I'm not going to be shocked. Even though I personally really liked Daredevil Born Again. I think I liked it more than most people did. But I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, Rob, you heard the comments from Charlie Cox. What do you think he meant? And would it be surprising to you if they continued into season 3? Would it be surprising to you if they canceled it? How do you see this?
Well, I think he was correct in saying that this is the last season of Daredevil Born Again because the story will be over. I didn't necessarily get from that that's the end of Daredevil. They might have, I mean, Born Again is a specific thing. They could have, Daredevil, the return of Typhoid Mary, and I think they're going to do more Daredevil shows. I honestly do. I think one of the things we tend to forget is we only hear about the numbers when something is first airing. But it's kind of like what happened with cable in the old days. These shows are on there for forever. So we might just hear about the original numbers. Like, did it make it during the time of airing? Did it get on the Nielsen or whatever, the top 10 while it was... But that doesn't take into consideration how many people continue to watch it as the show exists for whatever.
Sure, but we don't have any anecdotal evidence to suggest it did have any kind of a post-original
run but
surge.
People continue. There's a lot of people that discover shows. It's like Suits. When they put Suits on Netflix or whatever after it's gone off the air,
5 years after it went off the air,
yeah, suddenly Suits becomes a number one thing because people start watching it. There might be an appearance. You might not. Daredevil might show up in Avengers Endgame, and suddenly Avengers Doomsday, and somebody starts like, whoa, this Daredevil show is pretty good. And it has a resurgence. So if Daredevil keeps people coming back, look, I just finished my 4th rewatch of For All Mankind, and I've watched, they can look and see, I don't know what the numbers are as people discover that show because it's on Apple Plus and no one knows what's on Apple Plus anyway, as they sort of discover, and they could see that, this has had a consistent viewership for the last 2 years on our platform. And if Daredevil, if they decide to put him into Avengers Endgame, I keep saying Endgame, Doomsday, and he has some pivotal role and somebody likes what he does, there's a whole show about this character, a whole new audience is going to go rediscover him. So I think the quality of this show is such that I would never shut the door on it or him. And I think that, but I do think he's absolutely right. Daredevil Born Again is over. Is the final season. Yeah. That story's done.
Daredevil, whatever. After that.
So I think he's right about that, but I didn't get necessarily that there's going to be no more Daredevil.
It very well could have been that he was misspoke or whatever, but let's push this a little bit. Bob Iger and Kevin Feige have both said they're going to start reducing how much content they make. If your Daredevil series is drawing less numbers than Ms. Marvel, less numbers than Agatha All Along, and those production slots are becoming now preciously few.
Sure.
Do you dedicate one of those production slots every year to a show that is underperforming your other shows? Now, again, remember, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I love this show. I really like this show. But I'm asking, does it make sense to continue with an annual show and taking up production resources that you could be putting to other, maybe better performing things? You're in the Marvel executive room. How do you kind of navigate this?
Well, I think that when you're, again, the numbers, like we tend to believe, because we only talk about top 10, or top 20, whatever. We're looking at the top tiers of these shows across all platforms. And if you can say that, okay, on their platforms, it didn't do as much as Agatha All Along, but maybe because Daredevil was not a new show, it's the 4th season of a show that was once on Netflix.
That maybe people thought, and we said this going into the season, we said maybe people will think, I never watched the original, I can't jump in now.
Yeah, and I would maintain that these shows now exist in a rarefied air where people can watch them at will whenever they want. And we don't know, because we never hear about the long tail of these shows, that they might exist forever. And it's popular in what would be called syndication, but on a streaming service, it's not in syndication. It's just always there to watch. And we never hear about, like, I would love to know, like, sometimes you see like Moana, it's the number 1 watched show on Disney Plus, because when they first add Moana in, I would be curious to look at, and I don't think anyone's ever done this, look at streaming shows 2 or 3 years after they debuted.
Well, they're still, if they make the chart, they do pop up.
Sure, but they're only talking about the top 20 of all streaming shows. But if you look at platforms, what would be surprising, like what are consistent since Netflix started Netflix? Is House of Cards still a big viewership does it still draw people to watch it? Like, I'd be curious to see what are the over the course of 5 years or 10 years, what are the most shows? I mean, we only hear about the number one movies and then going down from there. But has anything over the course of time done really well? That it didn't, like, it wasn't a number one show, but it's been consistent for years, so it's gone on to become one of their biggest earners.
A good movie example of that, we're going to go back a ways, but is My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which I believe I think today still holds the record for the movie with the most weeks in the top 10 at the box office without ever hitting number one.
Yeah.
It just stayed and stayed and stayed and stayed. That said, movies like My Big Fat Greek Wedding or the great example you brought up, Suits, are very rare. Those are like the big exceptions, but it would be interesting to see how that does. But then again, if we say that applies to Daredevil, then we also got to say, well, that it's still an equal playing field, because that also would then apply to Agatha All Along. It would still apply to...
Yeah, but that same could be that, does anybody watch Agatha all along afterwards?
Right, and we simply don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. And so I'm saying that I think Daredevil is something that is worth pursuing.
Yeah, so I think the ratings for season 2, let's put it this way. If the ratings for season 2 go down, which I don't think they will, because I thought season 1 was quite good.
Yeah, and people will discover it.
But if season 2, the ratings do go down, whatever Vincent D'Onofrio or Charlie Cox or anybody has to say is going to be irrelevant. They're canceling that show.
Sure.
Because it's already on, I think, shaky ground with its numbers. I think they've got to see the numbers go up, and I hope they do. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you think there's a very strong possibility that Charlie Cox just misspoke? Do you think he was talking about the end of this particular series, and then after Daredevil Born Again season 2, they're going to do Daredevil Dead Again season 1? After that, I mean, I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.